Yep.
Hey everyone, good morning. This is Robert Mahaffey, and I'm excited today to be on our 15th version of the Homes and Money Realtor Mastermind. I have a guest with me today, Miranda Biedenharn, and she has been somebody that I did a deal with. We don't even remember 4 or 5 years ago. She lives and operates in Dayton, but she works out of a local office in Montgomery. She's with Comey and Shepherd. Miranda, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Miranda, I kind of said that you live in Dayton, but have you lived in Dayton your entire life? Is that your home, so to speak?
It is. Yep. So I went to Vandalia Butler High School, which is out by the Dayton airport. And so now I live in Bellbrook, which is a little more south of town. And you guys are in Cincinnati. I mean, since I've joined that Cincinnati office, I've realized like you guys are super, neighborhood by neighborhood. We're not so much that, but we are north and south for sure. So when I worked at my Remax office for, 17 years, that was north. Then when I moved out and started working south, I mean, it's two different markets. So it's funny how we do it versus you guys do it. But yeah, definitely Dayton is our home. That's where we do our business, is Dayton.
Huh. So it's not necessarily neighborhood specific or even suburb specific. It's like North Dayton and South Dayton.
I mean, kind of, yeah. People really stick to kind of that thing. And we're a little bit different. So we will do counties. So we service about like 6 different counties. So that's huge. That's like an hour radius of Dayton. That's our sweet spot. But that's where we focus. So we are not really, we have a team, and someone might know a particular city better than another, but we really service a huge area just because that's kind of how we operate out here versus the super small micro markets that you guys do.
Hmm. And so you mentioned that you were with Remax, I think, for 17 years. You've been with Comey for a little over a year now. When did you get started in real estate and why? What made you get into it?
Yep. So my dad, he was in real estate. So I've been in it for 18 years now. He's passed. We were on a team. He was my sidekick, my partner in crime. So that was a big loss. But he taught me everything I know now. And it was funny when I came in, he said, "Hey, I'm the boss." And then when by the time he was leaving, he said, "Hey, now you're the boss." Obviously, I this market has passed me. Technology, I'm out. I'm old news dinosaur. Can't keep up. So that's how I got in, is my dad. When I first got in, it was back in 2004. So the REOs were cranking. So that's what I did. I started in the REOs. So that's bank owns. That's where I started. And then we that kind of went away a little bit, and we got big time into short sales. So I got into that, and I had a checklist for my checklist. Everybody made fun of me, but I mean, I was at that point doing deals for agents that were going underwater. So I mean, that's really where I learned how to handle big amounts of transactions. We're really a high transaction team. So that's kind of where we got our footing. And then when the market recovered, we went into normal sales, which was kind of a breath of fresh air. But we just kind of adapt with the market and whatever is going on. But that's how we kind of, or me anyways, have really figured out the whole market from beginning to end and anywhere in between, because we did those REOs, those short sales, normal sales. There's really, not much we haven't seen as far as different types of transactions out there.
Okay. And so you have been in the business for 18 years, and I see your social media. It looks like there's 3 other people in most of your posts. Is that your team?
That's my team. Yep. We don't have any admin on our team. So we're a lot different than other people's. We don't have ISAs. We don't have admins, transaction coordinators. I know a lot of people have said, "Hey, I have my hand in the cookie jar a lot." And I definitely do. So I do pretty much everything for the team as far as keeping things in line, keeping our database up to date, prospecting, marketing, social media, all the things. So but yeah, we've got there's 4 of us, and we're all licensed agents.
When did you start growing the team? Or was it like that from when you joined your dad?
Yeah, I mean, me and my dad, we always kind of work together. Towards the end, we really kind of worked better together versus just kind of having our own businesses and covering for each other when we needed. We really started to kind of tag team things more. And then once he passed, I really needed, to fill that void because I just couldn't do all the things and wear all the hats. So I brought on agents because I have somehow, I don't know, I generate a ton of leads. And so I needed people to actually be able to be licensed and talk to those people and take them out and do the thing.
Awesome. So, one of the things that I wanted to ask was that you mentioned you kind of got your start or that your bread and butter was short sales and REOs. That obviously is a completely different aspect of the business. And you mentioned that when we kind of got out of that it was a breath of fresh air. Do you think that the short sale and REO market has helped you be even more organized on the non-REO and short sale transactions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, because like you said, I mean, they're not just a different type of real estate, they're a different beast altogether. So, I mean, there was a lot of follow-up because there's several different stages in all of those different types, the REO versus the short sale, several different stages in which a deal can be. And there's a lot of hand holding through that, either with the asset manager or the homeowner who has to give documentation. So you really got to stay on top of your game as far as timelines go and be able to follow up because it's just not a normal deal. Nobody cares as much if it happens. So you definitely, if you're not on top of your game, it's just not going to happen. So it has definitely made me prioritize and again, make checklists because there's no way. I mean, back when I was doing short sales, I would be processing like 200 at a time. And so there's no way you can keep all that in your head on where everything's at. And so I definitely lean into my systems big time. And I always tell my team, lean into the systems because if you don't and you're trying to remember it all, you're going to fail every time. You've got to rely on that technology to keep you on point and on track and hitting all those deadlines. So we definitely follow our checklist.
And you do all this without an admin. It's
All this without an admin. Yep.
wow.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go off script for a second because we've been in a market here where delinquencies have been historically low. And part of that is because for the period during the pandemic, a lot of people weren't reporting lates, right? So and it wasn't even possible to do evictions, et cetera. So now that you're sitting here and you've had this breath of fresh air, and then we go through 2022 which was completely different from 2020 and 2021. Are you seeing and ready for the turn where we might go back to some short sales and REOs? And based on the fact that that was your bread and butter, where do you think we are in that process?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'd like to think that people have enough equity and that prices aren't going to go down to the point where people are going to be upside down. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. You listen to all the different forecasts, and you got people on different sides of the fence yelling different things on what they think's going to happen. So who knows? But I mean, I've always just been able to kind of ride that wave on whatever it is, what the market holds. So honestly, right now, as we speak today, this is my least favorite market that we've been in a while, just because I feel like everybody's paralyzed and sitting on the fence, waiting to find the bottom or have it come back up, whatever the case might be, whatever they're kind of listening to and what they've been influenced by. So it's just kind of making the market paralyzed right now. So no amount of persuasion can really get people doing things. So I wouldn't mind, honestly, because that was a big niche of mine on those short sales. It's a lot of work, and you probably by the time you finish it, and because short sale, for those that don't know what they are, it's called a short sale, but it's not a short process in no way, shape, or form. I mean, I would know every in and out on those things, and it would still take me, who was doing probably 60 to 80 a year, it would take me 3 to 6 months. The average probably was 6 months. The longest I ever did one was 2.5 years. So it's not a short process, but a lot of people fizzle out in that. And so if it comes back to that, then I welcome it, because I mean, nobody wants to do it. It's a lot of hard work. They'd rather just pay me a referral. So I mean, I'll take that business every day.
Yeah, and is it a longer, you said it's a longer process, but there's more people that are involved in it, correct? There's more people that have to get approval from and make the decisions, et cetera.
Absolutely. So it's called third party approval is what it's called. And so that third party, me and you can agree, buy or sell. We agree to whatever terms. We got to go to that third party, who is the mortgage company, to get their approval. So it depends on how many mortgages they have. Did they have 1 or 2 mortgages? They've obviously not been paying their mortgage payment, so they're probably behind on other things as well. So you probably have liens on the property as well that you're probably going to have to negotiate. Might have state of Ohio liens, IRS liens. So I mean, there's times that for people, I mean, I would wipe off $100,000 worth of debt for them. So I mean, and back then, a lot of it was forgiven. So who knows, what they'll kind of do, but they actually put into law that people that did short sales back when they were super prevalent, they were forgiven. So that was a great way to be able to tell people, hey, they're going to forgive this debt for you, versus, hey, they're going to let you do it and still collect, a deficiency judgment against you. So it was a great thing.
Yeah. Now, and I do want to change gears for a minute, but one follow up to that, and this is just being on the lending side of things. In your experience, is there a way for clients to not have to get a 1099 where whatever's forgiven basically hits their tax return? Or is there kind of no way around that?
I mean, I would say there's no way around it, except for back in the day when they were so overwhelmed with it. I had several clients who never even got a 1099. So I mean, I don't know. I'd say it depends on the bank and how organized they are in doing things and actually getting you that 1099. But again, back then they had it written into law that, hey, you get that 1099, you fill out a corresponding form with your tax accountant that says it was my primary residence to the last 5 years, and you were exempt from that. So hopefully they put that back into play if they come in or what have you. So
yeah. So okay, before I go to the marketing side of things, I would think that from the aspect of you building a business with a large database of clients, when you're doing short sales for people, I'm assuming that a lot of those sellers at the time are not ready to immediately be buyers, right? Because they're doing a short sale and there's usually some derogatory reasons behind that, like you mentioned, the liens. So did you develop, or do you have a great system to where those people become leads that you actively work with for when they're ready to buy again? And can you speak to that a little bit?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so before the call, we kind of talked about, my secret sauce, if you will, is just keeping in rapport with people, whether it's a text message or whatever. I've kind of done a little bit of everything that everybody's talked about: pop buys, client appreciation events, all the things, right? But really, I don't know that it matters much of what you're doing or whatever, just as long as you're showing up. So that's really kind of what we've done. And so we've done that through, a lot through texting and emails and what have you, to kind of just keep in touch with people, social media, all the things. And we've kept in touch with all of our clients over the years. And yeah, we've definitely had people come out. I mean, those people were not allowed to buy for 2 years. The lending institution said no to that. So I mean, it was a long term, play on those people. But even 2 years out, most of those people still weren't back on their feet. So I mean, it took those people more like 5 years or something like that to get back on their feet and really be able to do something. But those are definitely some of our most grateful clients and loyal, because I mean, we helped them out in their darkest hours. So, I mean, it definitely was rewarding.
Sure. And I would think so. We've got some people that are on here today and others that may watch this recording at some point, but I mean, for me, I always loved new construction deals that hadn't broken ground yet, because that was something that was in my pipeline for 6, 9, 10 months later, right? And so for you in a market like today, and what we've been through the last couple of years, you potentially still have this extremely large pipeline of people that may be ready to buy again in a year or so, in addition to all of the business that you currently have. So what an amazing opportunity that you and your team have, because of all of those clients that had a short sale or whatever, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever the time may be. And that can be overwhelming, I'm sure, for you and your team. But as long as you have your systems that you stay on top of, you'll be fine, right? So,
Mhm.
how do you remarket to them and kind of know when they're ready, when you're not necessarily involved in, quote, their credit report?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've had different things that tell us, like they're like AI systems for all lack of better terms, and it kind of like follows them, if you will. So we've kind of put our people in different systems that say, hey, they may potentially might be looking at maybe a mortgage or something, and they end up on this radar of, hey, a potential person looking to do something. But really, more or less, it's kind of watching people on social media. So I'm super diligent, and if I do a deal with you or what have you, you breathe real estate my way, that I try to get you in my social media. That way I can see, hey, did you have a baby? Did you get a divorce? What are you doing? So that I can kind of like reach out to you and try to reconnect, and if you will, on a personal level, rather than just kind of whatever we've been doing, and kind of maybe fine tune that a little bit more to get them, saying if they're looking to actually do something and make a move of some sort.
Awesome. And then on the marketing piece, you mentioned I think you mentioned this on the pre-call, but that you generally have as many as like 60 leads a month coming in, and a lot of those are coming through the internet, right? So how are you marketing and receiving that many leads, and what's your kind of secret been to capturing that business?
Yeah. So we don't, and I never have paid for leads. So I've never done the Zillow thing. I've never paid for leads. But through back when, again, the market was kind of slow, way back when, I am a big person kind of keeping up on continuing education or what have you. But I elected, rather than just take random classes, I took classes to get designations. So I've got the whole alphabet behind my name. I couldn't even tell you what some of them stand for. But through that, some of those systems send me leads. So I get some that way. I've got some other ways in which, kind of how I ended up on your radar. You become a top agent doing transactions. I was 1% in the United States for a number of transactions, several times. So then you get on other companies' radar. And so then, because you're a top producing agent, you get on their list, and then they start sending you leads. And so we get some that way. We put everything on Facebook. We get a ton that way. But then we put these people in the database, and these people may have not meant to click on something, whatever that their situation might be. I mean, probably if you respond right away, we get about 37% that will do something with us. There's about 23% that will never again talk to us. And but most people, they will follow up with a lead. The average person follows up with them like 1.5 times. We will follow up with them 24 times. And then at that point in time, we stop calling and emailing and texting. It's a kind of combo of that. But we'll stop, making phone calls, if you will, and just put them in our long-term drip campaigns of market updates and whatever else. But those people come back eventually. Like you said, you had someone that came after 11 months or what have you. Last year, I had someone that I literally made 17 contacts personally through phone calls and text messages and what have you. And then they finally called me after not responding one time and said, hey, come list 3 houses for me. So that's our secret really ingredient I think that makes us a lot different than other people, is to where most will only call 1 or 2 times. We're calling, 24 times before we stop personally reaching out to these people. So, but it takes that system and relying on that to kind of keep them moving and then engaged down the pike, because the most people aren't ready. They're just window shopping to some degree, and you're trying to just add value of whatever sort to kind of get them to know, like, trust you, and get them to come out of the woodwork.
Sure. What system do you guys use as a team to manage the communication with them?
Yeah. So we back in end of 21, we were with Contactually, and that was owned by Compass, who sold it and shut the doors on us. So we had to migrate everybody out. And you've been trying to get me on the show forever. And I at one point told you, hey, I have a big Christmas thing. We're like, Mr. and Mrs. Claus over here. So when that happened in December, that was like the worst timing ever for me to get my whole database. Because like you said, we get so many leads. We had 10,000 people that we had to migrate over and hope that we got it done correctly. So we did that back in end of 2021. We're now with Brivity, which I think I heard Scott Ferguson, I think that's his name. I think him and his wife said that they use that. So I want to pick his brain on that, because that's what we use. But we've, every system you get into has their canned campaigns or what have you. So they had those. We didn't want to use that. So we had to hurry up and recreate what we already had in our other system in this one. So that's what we used, and it's a texting and an automated texting and email campaign that automatically goes out, and then we sprinkle in phone calls as well to reach out to these people. But again, as soon as the lead comes in, we put it in the database, and then that's an instant call, and then followed up by a text message, because again, 37% are, if they answer you within that first hour, are gonna transact with you most likely. So we really try to hit them up right when they're hot, right after they hit that submit button, because otherwise it's a fighting battle to get them to actually do something with us.
Sure. And so does Brevity also kind of work as a task system to tell you, Miranda, here's who you need to call today? Or do you have another system that works in conjunction with that?
Yeah, I try to keep as few systems as possible, because again, when I started with my dad, he was the least tech savvy person ever. So I had to find the most dumbed down, easy program ever. And I think that's really, everyone always says, what CRM should I use? Whichever one you'll actually use is the one you should use. So I tend to try to look for ones that are going to keep it super simple and have less bells and whistles, because we have so many of those anyways that, you can just get lost in them and be diluted and not really make any waves with people. So they do have a task system that will say, and you can prioritize your tasks that way. If you can't get in there that day for whatever reason, who's your hot and who you should follow up with, kind of thing. But yes, definitely that. And I try to live in that system as much as I can, rather than all my post-it notes. So those don't get lost or overwhelming. So yeah, I really try to live in there as much as I can through my task and whatever. And I mean, I'll even put things in there that don't have to do with the client, just for personal or whatever, just so I have everything in one spot to know kind of what I need to do to keep myself moving the ball forward on whatever fronts I've got going on.
Awesome. So when you do your social media scour or whatever, like as you're going through, you're doing your research, are you adding those things to your CRM system as well as notes as, hey, so-and-so just had a baby? Like, are you kind of cross-referencing and capturing that info?
I should do more with that, but honestly, it's kind of like, hey, I hope we have a ton that goes through the cracks, just as I'm sure we all do. I mean, if we try to track and measure everything we got going on, it's tough, but definitely I try to put details into my CRM as much as I can. Like, hey, their cat's name is Sally, don't forget, or whatever kid's birthday, they've got 3 kids, whatever. So that way, when I get on the phone with them or I'm texting them, I have a reference right there. So again, I try to keep myself in as few systems as possible. But yeah, I mean, we can all probably do better, but I try to keep my notes super detailed in my CRM as possible.
And then you mentioned that 37% capture when you are when you reach out in how short a time? Like
An hour.
within the hour. Okay. So what does that reach out? Because I think this could equate to any client that makes an inquiry, regardless if it's, short sale, REO, whatever. What type of message are you finding is the best message for that reach out? Is it just a simple introduction?
So as short and sweet as possible, because I don't think people like to read. A lot of times they didn't even realize when they signed up on something that somebody was going to actually call them based on that, which is funny to me, but you would be surprised how many people are caught off guard by that. So I try to tailor it a little bit based on whatever their inquiry looked like online. If they're buying something, like if they're a buyer and they've stated a particular property, I'm going to reference that property and say, hey, do you want to go see it? I'm just trying to get in front of them as quick as I can. I'm not really trying to interview them initially, because again, they don't even know who I am. So if I start asking them, are you buying cash? Are you financed? Like, they're already just got the walls up big time. So I try to get in front of people. I'll do, one courtesy kind of thing, depending on their situation, and try to just get in their face and start to build that rapport so that they know, like, and trust me again. And they'll work with me no matter how far out they are in the process. So, I mean, we definitely get burned that way, but they may not be able to do something, but they may be super happy that we're actually the one person who answered their inquiry. Because it's funny that a lot of people who make inquiries, they never even get contacted by an agent, because people think internet leads are garbage and they're Mickey Mouse. And some of them are, and we got to weed through those. But there's a lot of money to be made too, as well, if you're willing to put in the work. So some people are just happy that somebody actually contacted them back. So we're just going to keep in touch with them, and they may not be ready. They may know somebody that's, ready down, somebody else that's ready right now. So we're just kind of trying to hit them in wherever they're at, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, that they're often just happy that somebody contacts them back. But I also think, and there's a certain percentage of people that will fill out some type of internet request form where there is, again, a certain percentage that's desperate, right? You're right. There's garbage out there that have been turned down by 7 other people or told no by 7 other people. But there's also people that couldn't get a call back, and there's just desperate, like, I just want to talk to somebody, right? And sometimes, like you said, those people are the most grateful when you can eventually get the deal done for them. So that's fantastic. I have to ask this question because we've talked about it on previous masterminds that there's no such thing as balance. I know you have at least 2 kids, 2 boys that are active in sports, 4 kids. How do you try to, I'm not going to say balance. How do you manage that as, you and I've joked before about, hey, you sent me a text, I'm sitting in a gym, whatever, like how are you managing that and running a big team and doing the volume that you're doing and following up on all the leads that come in?
Yeah. I mean, some people said they don't know how I do it. They don't think I really have 24 hours in my day. But I mean, really, before COVID, I worked 60 hours outside the home. I barely saw my kids. I barely saw, any of my family. So, we were passing, ships in the wind. But after that, we lost our babysitter because they were super into COVID and wanting to kind of, follow those mandates. So I came home because my team was working outside of the office anyways. I was really the only one in there when I was in there. So we all went home and started working. So I've actually got to gain some of that work-life balance through COVID, and that I'm here with my kids now, and I get them off the bus, I get them on the bus. So I see them a lot more. So I feel like I've gained a lot back from just coming and working out of my home office now. And my kids are older. I mean, I think somebody said that they had a kid and they were in the hospital and, pushing out a baby and talking on the phone to a client at the same time. That was definitely me. I mean, people were like, you just had a baby. And so we have 4 kids. They're all boys. 2 of them are twin, or whatever. 2 of the kids are twins. So, I never stopped. I never took any maternity leave on any of my kids. but I got a good partner. So there's the other gentleman who said, hey, my wife does all the things or whatever. My husband's super good with the kids. We're super involved with the community. So again, my tribe, if you will, I learned is that I see these people all the time. My kids, friends, parents, and all those people. Why go try to prospect people I don't know? Let's work on building relationships with the people I see every day, and those conversations are a lot easier. And everybody we know, we go to a party, how's real estate, how's the market? So you just work on that elevator pitch. I'll go to again, a way that I've brought back some of my balance is that I'll sit at I don't know if you're recording image, but I have a lot of my clothes branded. So I'll go to practices and I'll sit there on my laptop and I'll be working, and people come up and ask me about the market and whatever. So I'm super diligent in where kind of I market to as well. I don't spend a ton of marketing dollars, but what I do is kind of like I've seen you at the stadiums where I'm at all the time. I got 4 boys in all the sports. And so I put my name up on all the stadiums where all my people are walking through. So even if they didn't know what I was working on my computer at practice, they sure know now. So that's kind of, I try to keep my my marketing dollars super niche in the sense of it's where my kids are all the time, because those are my people that I see all the time. So I try to capture as much as that as I can. So that's how I kind of got some of my balance back.
Yeah. And that was, you mentioned that was my mindset is I was going to do connecting communities because, again, like, and I know Lindsay's on this call. She and I have talked about this before, that she does a lot of stuff in Trenton. If she's going to kind of go to the next community over, people might go to the Monroe Kroger, right, that live in Trenton. And so, that's a spot that you might want to market. So for me, it was the Westchester, Lakota area, and then Monroe's kind of a neighboring community. And so that's been my mindset as well. So that's great. Within your team, if you are sitting at a basketball game and somebody wants to see something, how do you delegate that? Are you handing that off to other team members to help show homes, or is that still you, or kind of what?
So again, I would say another way that I kind of got some of that balance back is that I'm in the trenches doing a lot of things. So there's nothing I don't ask my team that I don't do or I'm not willing to do. But that being said, I've told everybody as they kind of join my team, my end goal is to get out of the appointment part of the business. I don't want to work the buyers necessarily. And I mean, I'll work some listings, but really kind of who I work personally, me, is my past clients, my friends, my family, that kind of thing. And then if I want to sprinkle in a buyer or what have you, or I got a seller I want to work or whatever, I'll kind of cherry pick kind of who I have time to work with. And then my team really gets all the other things. So all the other, people that are ready to rock and roll. I mean, I'm hitting up, I have a shared calendar for everybody. So I know, and everything's on there, whether it's an appointment with, at a sports game that they're going to with their kid, or another appointment. I know where everyone is and what they're doing. And so then I'll see, hey, this person has availability. I'm going to hook you up with that person, that kind of thing. I try to match people up based on personality, location, that type of thing also. But I'm definitely, it's all about it. To me, we're an instant gratification society. So if I tell you you got to wait 2 hours, you're probably going to go call somebody else. So I try to get people in as quick as I can to keep them with us, because otherwise I think people are just more than what we would like to think. They're just going to go somewhere else. So that is definitely a thing that we do.
Yeah. So I want to ask this question for Lindsay. She's got to where she can't ask verbally, but she asked, and I know we talked about this, you don't work mainly leads. You get leads, but you also have past clients, et cetera. The ones that you're particularly trying to work are your past clients, your friends, your follow-ups there. The kind of raw leads that come in, those are ones that you're allowing the team to help with, correct?
Yeah. But that being said, I mean, there will be past clients of mine that I hand off to the team. It might be, I'm looking, if I don't have time to service my grandma, then I'm going to hand her off. So it's kind of a balance too with that as well. If my schedule doesn't allow for it, if I'm going out of town, if I've got a kid's sporting event, I'm just not willing to miss it. But I'm also not willing to tell you to wait either. So I'm going to, part of my thing too of my team is I want you to grow and thrive and do well as well. So if that means I've got to, take a smaller cut of it so that the client gets help and so that we keep them as a client, I'm more than happy to do it. So it's kind of too like, what time do I have as far as who I personally help? But yeah, that's kind of how I do that.
So this is something that maybe we can brainstorm, and maybe you already have this figured out, but as someone that also has a team, I think the challenge when we hand off and delegate, I mean, your logo on your shirt is the Biedenharn team, right? And so, when I get referrals to me, people are referred to me, and there's a weird thing about handing it off, but also having a team that functions so well that you don't have to really get back involved. And we've talked about this on a couple other masterminds. How do you think that top producers need to sprinkle themselves into a transaction so that they can still get referrals in the future, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just say, personally, it's been rather painful that a couple of my reviews recently mentioned my entire team, but they didn't mention my name. And that's both a compliment and a knife in the gut at the same time, right? So like that's something that I think we all have to brainstorm and make sure that we're protecting our own brand, the brand that's on your shirt. How do we do that? And so do you have a way that you do that today?
So I try to, depending on the person, if it's someone that doesn't know me at all, I'm gonna sprinkle myself in less. And you just kind of have to, I guess, hope that your team member, when they, they got all the feathers in their tail, that they're not gonna fly away, and that you're gonna, keep that client of theirs that you handed off that really started as yours. You're gonna get some residual from that down the road when they reach out to that client, that agent again, because they didn't have that relationship with you, they had it with somebody else, on your team. So you just gotta kind of hope and keep your team happy, hopefully that they want to stay, so you'll get that person back. But I can say in all the follow-up, it's me. So like down the road, they're going to be getting emails, and I brand it for the team, but it's going to be from my email address. It's going to be from my phone number. I don't care if you did a deal with someone else on my team. I'm going to be the one reaching out to you because I know I'm going to do it. And I kind of want to try to keep my team as much as I can on the road, at appointments, doing the thing. So I kind of tend to take on a lot. So I like to keep my hand in the cookie jar a lot, which maybe hurts and maybe helps me. I don't know. But it's just kind of always the way I've done it. So, and that's what we're going to keep doing until I find a better solution. But yeah, but during the process too, I try to keep my agents, again, we use Loop. And so there's a checklist in there that we kind of, follow for our transactions. So Brevity is getting them to the point where they're ready to do a transaction. Then we change to Loop and we follow a checklist there. So I'll either reach out to the client at a certain point in that checklist and see how they're doing, make sure everything's going okay, to interject myself into the situation. At the end of the deal, I'm the one requesting the review for the team member, what have you, just to kind of put myself out there again. But I don't really care if the person does business with me or knows who I am or whatever. I've literally done deals where someone showed up to a closing and they said, "Who's your agent?" And they could not remember. So that's okay. It happens, but you just kind of try to keep, touching the person as much as possible so that when it comes up again in conversation, they think enough of who was that and maybe try to go back and find you on my contact, because I know my name is so hard you can't even say it. My grandma probably again can't say it half the time. But I say my realtor. in my contact card. So when I share it, at least if they can't remember my name, because you can't spell my first name or my last name, I get it. They're both long. Hopefully maybe realtor will be in their phone and they'll pull me up that way. So I don't know. I try to do little tricks to kind of keep people knowing who you are.
That's great. Yep. That's great. What advice do you have for fellow top producers in succeeding as this market continues to turn?
Yep. I think that over the calls, you can see that everybody kind of does their own thing, right? And we all have success on different levels of our business. So I don't think it matters what you do. I think it matters just that you show up and you do it consistently. I think that is everyone can speak to that. Whatever they've done, it wasn't instant results. It was a long-term play, and you just got to keep playing. And also, another advice I would say is there's always going to be someone better than you. So if you're constantly comparing yourself, to other people, you're never going to be able to appreciate anything you have. So our days are numbered and we don't know when our number is going to come up. So just enjoy it while you can and what you've got. Know that, hey, if you show up and you do the thing, even when you don't want to, then the results and the seeds are planted and the results will come to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. And you have to recharge your batteries. You have to, make sure that you uh attempt balance, right? I think like you said, there are so many people that the pandemic was good for them in realizing that there were other ways to do business, you know. I'll be honest. The pandemic made me less of a dinosaur in terms of how I did mortgage business. I used to do a lot of face-to-face consultations, and I knew the industry was changing to more of a digital based application process and disclosure process. The pandemic forced that upon me, and so now it's 99.9% of what we do. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think like myself, there were a lot of people that did change the way that we operated because of that. And not all bad and not all good. There was obviously good and bad that came out of that time that we went through. So Miranda, I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this. I've got a lot of notes here. And I'm not going to stop bugging you. But I appreciate you being a guest, and I really want to say that I don't know exactly how many you've been on, but you've been a huge supporter of this mastermind and attended a lot of these. That to me says that you're somebody that really wants to grow and help others as well. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here today. And I look forward to having everybody next week. I know days after a holiday are hard. I've realized that. And so I'll make sure that we get this recording out and go from there. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Miranda.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
See ya.